Okay, recording started. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Today is the 152nd birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. So we pay our homage to the father of the nation. Uh, Today we have invited our guest, Mr. Nishit Patel, who has done his LLB from RGSO IPL from 2011 to 2014 batch. Prior to joining RGSO IPL for LLB, Sir has pursued his B.Pharm from Gujarat University as well as M.Pharm from the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda. During his RGSO IPL days, Sir was known for his initiatives of helping others in intellectual property aspects, and I'm sure Sir will also familiarize with us uh, of his time at RGSO IPL. Currently, Sir is pursuing his legal practice before the Gujarat High Court as well as tribunals and other courts in the Gujarat. Sir is also having a decent intellectual property law practice. Uh, Now, on a very personal note, during December 2020, I did my internship with Nishit sir, and it was one of the most memorable experience I have ever had in any internship, I can say. So it was truly an experience for me that alumni are truly an asset of our law school. Now, taking not much time, I will hand over floor to sir. And before sir starts on the topic, I would request sir to share some of the memories of his time at RGSO IPL with us. Over to you, Nishit bhai.
Yeah, so good morning all. So and happy Gandhi Jayanti as well. So talking about RGSO IPL days, those are very nostalgic moments as of now, and we really had a very good time and very good colleagues also. So there were very good senior batches also, junior batches also, and that is always a dream to come back to the campus with all the batchmates and enjoy that time if we can really relive it at all. So that time, with one of my friend Rohit, me and Rohit, we had started advising because we had a E cell. Many of you are aware about it. So there are students from engineering and other backgrounds who are starting their startups from the campus itself. So we thought, why not to advise them also? So why not start our practice from the campus itself? So kind of we started legal advising, not kind of a legal advising, but because we were not a lawyer by then. But I was fortunate enough to clear my patent agent exam in the second year. So we were advising many of the people. So Rohit was very much interested in the corporate. I was that time very much interested in the IP also. But eventually I wanted to do the litigation. That was also very much clear for me. So we started advising people on campus as far as the contracts parts are concerned, their website privacy policy terms and conditions. Then one of the market leader of EV Ether Energy, most of you might aware, in 2013 or 14 we had filed a design because that time we could not file. So what we had done is we had prepared representation and sent it to the client, and we had filed it in the name of the client directly. So that is how it was. And there were many other, like apart from all this work and other things, we had also participated in some few moves. So one was for the Shastra move for constitutional law along with Niharika and Satya Sundar. So there also we had got some, I think we were runner up if I recollect correctly. And along with Satya and Rohit, we had again participated in the taxation moot at the GLC Bombay in the memories of great Nani Palkiwala. So that were good times, I would say definitely. And still, most of us are in touch. So we do get on calls many a times and share our memories. So KGP, once a KGP and always a KGP. That is how it is. So, and as far as practice part is concerned, I was also an active part of the TNP team at that time because that time most of the TNP work was taken care of by our in-house team only. So we had a very large team from our batch also, senior batch also, junior batch also. So that task also we had done, and we could do the placement of most of the people that time. But things have changed, and see, as far as TNP aspect is concerned, I would say we should not, as a student, we should not always look for that we should get a placement and all that. The most important thing in the life is, it is not as if nobody is going to get any job. See, market is always having some space where everyone can get something. Okay, but it is about what is your liking and where you want to be after a few years down the line once you start your own practice. So always keep that in mind, because eventually, sooner or later, everyone is going to get a job. So I am sorry for a moment, because there is some civil work going on the top floor of my office. So there may be some disturbances. But if there need be, let me know. I'll repeat whatever if you are not able to hear it. So as far as my career path is concerned, I had worked with a Delhi firm for wherein I had a good opportunity to work with our super duper senior from, I think, one of the first batch pass out, Ashwini Balian sir. So he was a partner there, and I had joined the patent and trademark team there. Then I had worked for almost 5 to 6 months, and then I was faced with a social call, because I was about to get married, and my mother also had some severe back issues. So that time I had to take a call whether I would continue my practice in Delhi or I'll go to my native place. So then eventually I decided, because I was keen about doing litigation, so I thought, why not go to Gujarat, wherein both the even it is a commercial state, so there are opportunities as far as trademark patents are also concerned, and litigation is concerned. There are also opportunities, but to be frank, there is no near and dear or very far away from my relatives or friends who are a lawyer. So I am a kind of a first generation lawyer. So there are certain things that you may deal with. And but speaking from my experiences, I'll share my experiences. So most of you can have some guidance as to how to take a call. See, as far as what I personally believe is, there is nothing good or nothing bad. Like, if you are a litigation lawyer, you are someone superior to whoever is working in corporate. There is nothing like that. So whoever is working, the only thing is, wherever you work, you should enjoy it and you should like it. That is the basic part. Because if you are into litigation, but if you are not enjoying, there is nothing, or there is no purpose of going into the litigation. If you are very good at doing corporate jobs or in-house counsel, then you may go ahead with it. So don't have that limited perspective of that superiority or inferiority as far as the career path is concerned, because the likings of everyone would be different, and everyone would be, even socially, economically, even networking wise, will be placed different, and everyone will have their own different experiences, and based on that they'll take a call. So you should not judge with like your batchmates or seniors or juniors, but you should have some clarity on your career path also, like at least from the second year or like third semester onwards. I would say, at least by the time you are in fourth semester, I think you should have a reasonable call on where I want to be in my future career. So because the reason being, from the campus you can start exploring those internship opportunities. Okay, and so you can have that 1 or 2 months in-house experience of whatever field you. So you will have that first-hand idea. Because so if you are unsure, then you will do the internship in the firms, and eventually you will end up being in the corporate practice or in-house counsel. So you will not have that idea or that intricacies of day-to-day life of a particular career. So have that clarity. See, as far as litigation and IP part is concerned, then eventually when I shifted to Gujarat, I was working with Nanavati and Nanavati Advocates, which is basically one of the biggest firms in Gujarat. So they do have a non-litigation litigation work. They do IP also, but I was very much sure I'll do the non-litigation part only. I was taking care of the non-litigation part also, but it was not as if day to day I was taking care of it. I was placed with their high court litigation team, so we were taking care of that. And eventually, I had worked for 8 months there also. So what happens in bigger firms, generally, you will get to know about, because there are certain things which are not in the CPC or not in the law schools, but those are there in the practice. Okay, so there are particular ways of functionings of certain codes. There are certain things like how the matters are board cause list are prepared, boards are generated, how you mention the matters, and that is something you observe and you learn. Okay, so that will take some time. So eventually, after that 8 months, I had started drafting petitions and all that also. But the point is, with bigger firms, you don't get those opportunities of arguing out. So unless and until you, as a lawyer, if you can't argue, you can't test yourself, because it is the ultimate thing that you can have in your, as far as litigation practice is concerned. So then I thought, and even the independent practice or individual practice was not allowed. So I thought I'll join someone who is an individual practicing advocate, and I'll join with him and have that buffer clause of having independent practice. So I worked with a senior who was already in that firm before me. He was working there as in a senior position, but he had recently started his independent practice. So I had joined him and I had worked with him for about 2 years. So what I did for that 2 years is for 11 to 8 or 9, whatever the time being, I used to take care of all the litigation work, and after 9, I'll go home and start my non-IP practice. So that is how I had developed my IP practice. So through referrals, I was getting some work, but that is how it was, because that is what even I would advise the most of you also, because it is not as if, because litigation, as far as I believe, if you are choosing to practice on civil side, the buffer time in my personal experience or view is almost 5 to 7 years. If you have no one, no godfather is there for you, no near and dear, then it will take at least 5 to 7 years to establish yourself and start getting that regular practice so that you can be an independent. I have seen people who have been working with some firms or with some seniors for more than like 10, 15 years, 20 years also, and then starting their individual practices also. But that is a personal call, like whether someone wants to start it early or start it later. But this is what the general timeline that I have observed. As far as civil side is concerned, you must keep in mind that at least 5 to 7 years timeline would be there. Then as far as criminal side practice is concerned, that time will be reduced to maximum 1.5 to 2 years. That because most of the times you are dealing with 3x only. CRPC, IPC, and evidence. That's it. Okay, and the thing is, as far as High Court practice is concerned, the bail and quashing part of the criminal practice is by and large covered by all the advocates. So those advocates who are also in civil practice, they'll appear for bail also and quashings also. So and there are certain things in which most of the practicing lawyer don't generally indulge in, are like temporary bails and all that. So there are set of people who generally have that practice and they continue with it and they are happy with it. So that is altogether a different aspect. But if you want to,
Sir, we have also first year students with us. So
yes.
the certain terms that you are using, like washing of, if you can
Oh,
elaborate with for them, so it will
so
be better.
quashing is like when an FIR is filed, but accused is of the opinion that a charge is not made out. Like if there is a section of 302, but 302 is not made out in your opinion, then you can always file a quashing petition. And that is subject to the High Court has a special powers of quashing. So if the High Court is satisfied with your submissions, then they may quash the FIR. So for that part, your FIR will be gone. It may be wholly or partly also. Okay, so and as far as quashing, there is another aspect wherein there is a consent quashing. So wherein the complainant and accused have settled the matter and they'll file a formal affidavit and then the court will verify, okay, this is something genuine or not. And there are certain class of offences wherein if there are settlements also, the court may refuse to quash, like murders 376 and all that. So it depends, but there is something that most of the lawyers are doing it. So if you are choosing to be in criminal side practice, the cream area is either going ahead with the criminal trials or as far as high courts are concerned, criminal appeals. Okay, so this is the exclusive area of, I would say, criminal lawyers as far as, and civil side there is no limitations because there are plethora of laws which I think individual lawyer can't get an opportunity to read also. So practicing it altogether a different part. But see, as and when you start your independent practice, be it civil side or criminal side, be it IP or whatever, my personal opinion had been we should be open about, we should not restrict ourselves as a practicing advocate to in which part will be practicing exclusively. Meaning thereby, see, if I'll limit my from the beginning only, if I limit my practice, then I'll have that limited knowledge of those laws. Number one. Number two is, as far as litigation part is concerned, there are many things which if you have practiced in some other areas of law, you will have that broader scope of mind and even the knowledge of law. So there are many things that you will get to know, and that you will definitely get to see in the drafting of a lawyers also, and even the arguments also. So those who are only doing non-litigations and those who are only doing litigation and drafting something, there will be certain peculiarities because they will be much more particular about something, and there are ways in which they write. Always that is also a subjective, but there will be certain differences because that person will have certain broader scope of knowledge, because he'll think from the perspective if this particular order is challenged, how the judge would deal with it, what are the sections, he'll go deep in, he'll research for the judgments and all that. So that is also there. Okay, so I believe that is all. But one more point is what I've seen is there are many laws which, as a law student, we many a times ignore. But if you start a practice, the major chunk of litigation practice is covered by them, and those are like matrimonial laws. Okay, so this Section 9 petition, Section 13 RCR, then restitution of conjugal rights and divorce petitions, then maintenance petitions, then labor law and service law matters, then education law matters, because many a times we being branding ourselves as an IP school, we should not have that notion that we are exclusively an IP school. See, we are having an honors in IP, but that doesn't mean we should not ignore other laws. To be frank enough, because most of the even IP part, if I'll take, no, that will not take more than 5% of all litigation practice that is in place, irrespective of any code, I would say. Okay, so that part is very much limited, and eventually, whenever you start your practice, be broader, don't restrict yourself. Okay, and then eventually let your briefs and your clients define your individual practices. You can always have some choosing of your practice. Like for IP, I had decided I will do the non-litigation practice of IP particularly. I was very much sure I'll do that practice. But at the same time, I was very much sure also that I'll do the litigation also, and I'll not restrict myself only to the IP. And to be frank enough, 7 years down the line in my practice, I do not have any IP litigation brief as of now. I had got certain inquiries, but most of our briefs are from the civil and criminal sides only, not limiting to IP. And eventually, when I had started my independent practice in 2016-17, I had a good fortune of having good friends over in here. So among them, one of my friend is also a partner, and he has almost 15 years of practice. Because for us, what happens is we do the, most of us are either having a bachelor or master degree, so we already have that 6 years of college and further 3 years. So we are almost, by the time we graduate, we are somewhere around like 26, 27. So by that time, if you compare other 5-year law schools, they must be already having 5 years experience in the practice, or 6 years, BCom plus LLB. They will always be having 4 or 5 years advanced experience than us. So it is always good to have a network with people, and whichever firm or whichever senior you are working with, have a good terms always. Because see, as far as my previous firms, as far as I am concerned, when I had left the firm, all of my senior team members were like, whenever in future, if you are planning to shift to the Delhi, we are always open for you. Even that is true for my previous firms at the Gujarat also. So they were like, you can always come and work. Eventually, if you decide I want to start a firm practice and do not want to continue with the independent practice, so that is altogether a different aspect of the matter. And one of the advantage of maintaining good terms with other people is, see, if it is clear with a professional practice that if I was working with my seniors, I got independent. There will be many more juniors coming and working with me, and they'll eventually also go independent. So there is nothing good or bad about it. So there is no point of keeping in hard feelings, because we had also gone independent. Our juniors will also go. But as a junior, what we should take care is always have a good terms with our seniors, and whenever you are leaving, at least leave it on the good note. Okay, because what I have experienced is you many times get a referral work also, which will form major part of your practice also. Okay, so as far as like for my group is concerned, there are many lawyers, but they are not aware of IP. Okay, IP laws, because their patent is altogether technical. Trademark, many of them will be aware, but they will not be willing to practice. So what eventually happens is they'll start referring you the work. So that way also your practice will get established. So there are many ways, like you can either have direct clients, you can have advocate friends who will refer work to you, and there will be certain clients who will refer more clients to you. So that is how it is. So fortunately for me, most of my practice is either referred by my advocate colleagues or my clients who are referring more clients. So ultimately, providing good services, timely services, being honest and transparent about your practices and whatever the matter is helps you. Okay, so there is nothing like, so once you take a brief, it is not always that you are going to win it or lose it. The only thing is you have to put your 100%. Okay, so that's it. So that is what I would advise as far as the litigation part is concerned. As far as the firm practice is concerned, what I have seen is in the firm practice, majority the non-litigation and litigation parts are working separately. Okay, so there are very few times the non-litigation members will get to do the litigation work also. Bigger firms I'm talking about, which have more than 20-30 advocates. Okay, so even in that also, like if you are in the trademark practice, there will be different teams for, like one team for opposition only, one team for filing only. So your work will get micro specialized, and eventually what happens is many times people start getting bored of that also, because every day you are going to the office 11 to 8, you are doing only the opposition drafting or counter statement drafting or submission. So you will have that limited view unless and until you go up here, argue it out. Even the hearing team will be the different. So you will always have that limited view of within being in the four corners of your office only. Okay, so getting a broader view, I believe it requires interaction with lot of people. And see, again, it is something very subjective, and that may be different from person to person. Like one person may enjoy being doing a firm practice and doing one particular aspect of law only, but some may not enjoy it, or some may will feel that I'll want to do the litigation practice also. Some may be keen about going into the judiciary also. So as far as judiciary is concerned, from my limited knowledge or information, I would say what I know is my current partner, he had been JMFC. So as far as the judiciary is concerned, there are two things. Okay, either you can start with JMFC, which is a kind of an entry in the judicial side is concerned, but your position will be as much junior level. Number one, number two, the kind of offenses that you will be trying must be less than 2 years or 7 years. Okay, 2 years. I think summons tribal cases are majority dealt by the JMFCs. Okay, and so the major grievances that I have heard from the people who had been to the JMFC or judicial side services, because JMFC is a very junior position, they are placed very remotely. So eventually what happens is, once you start graduate, you will have that 2 to 3 years or 4 years maybe, and by that time you start getting married also, where there are social responsibilities, those are increasing, and your family will also increase and all that. So by the time you are into the JMFC with 1 or 2 year experience, you will have a wife to maintain, children to maintain also, and then eventually you will come at a point where education of your child, you have to take call on many things. So eventually people many a times drop the JMFC post, because those are many a times posted in very remote areas wherein there are limited scopes of education and all that part is concerned. Though being you have very good pay also, very good power also, but eventually people keep dropping that post also. So the second option that you can have is, and what I would advise all judicial, see, JMFC aspirants are also good, and you can do it if you want to do it, and there are many people who are doing it. So there is nothing like it can't be done. But this is something that I know of. I thought of sharing with you. As far as second position is concerned, that is district judge examination, and I think the minimum criteria is 35 years of age and 10 years of practice. So I think by that time, that option is much more better as far as judicial side aspirants are concerned, because you will be always placed in the district headquarters. So you will have that good amenities, also good like social. You can also have that your good schooling for your kids and all that. So even though there will be certain additional perks being a DJ, okay, because you are heading the district, okay. So remuneration wise, power wise, security wise, facility wise, it is much more better post. And your if you are joining the judicial services at the younger age, there are higher chances of you being a high court judge. Okay. So as far as high court judges are concerned, they are either promoted from the judiciary almost 50%, and 50% are absorbed from the high court side. Okay. So irrespective of the, and that is how it is. The High Court and Supreme Court positions are always through the full bench college, through collegium only. So there is nothing like appointment and all that. So the judicial type, and there are tribunals always. So tribunals are much more specific versions of those. They are limited to one law only. So that is also there. And yeah, I think that much is enough. I think we should open the floor for questions then, because
Yes, sir. Somebody has asked in a chat box,
yeah.
if one wants to clear the patent bar by second year, what should be the approach?
As far as the approach is concerned, the only thing that I would suggest and recommend is buy a bare act and rules. Bare act with rules, that's it. Okay, so there are two papers. One paper is for your these sections, and second is drafting part. Okay, so if you are able to read bare act and rules and manuals at the max, I would say don't lure into those postings of tuitions and all that, because what I have seen is bare act and rules and manuals are more than enough and more than clear also to get through that first part of the examination. As far as the second part is concerned, you may practice it. See, art of drafting is always practicing it, but there are certain things in practice. What I have learned is don't draft too many claims. Like it is not as if you are drafting many number of claims, you are a good drafter. Always limit it at between 10 to 20 at the max. There I have seen the patents wherein the claims are 40, 50, but it depends on the peculiarity of that particular subject matter. In chemical, chemistry, biology, there are always many number of patent claims, but most of the straightforward inventions may not have more than that, and there is no point in writing unnecessarily independent claim. So, and always have at the max one, or at the max second claim. Independent claim is not advisable unless and until there is a system method claim. Otherwise, always have your invention limited to one claim, only one independent claim. And that is how it is, because under section 10 there is a unity objection. There has to be a unity of the invention. So if you are drafting so many independent claims, then your patent will be hit by that section, and ultimately you will be faced with the divisional part or additional part and all that. So I think the patent office also evaluates your drafting from those angles only, because see, as far as complete specification part is concerned, it is very much straightforward, and half of that part will be disclosed in your paper. The problem they are giving in your complete specification part is always done. It is only a matter of where to write what. Okay, what to write in background, what to write in summary, what to write in detailed description. Okay, so that is the only thing that you are faced. The only part as a drafter you are expected to do is the claim drafting, and that is how you should do it. and you should at least appear it. Say what when I had appeared, I was not sure कि I'll get through, but I was going through the acts and manuals only because I was not into reading. If you get more time, you may go through the case laws, but never buy any other reference books and all that. Okay, just for extra time, you may go through it, but if you haven't read Barrett rules and manuals, don't go for anything. First clear those three, and then only think of reading something else, because that is where your practice will be limited for whole of your life, and there is nothing that can go beyond rules and act. Even in the reference book also. Okay. Apart from few judgments of Supreme Court, because Supreme Court has got powers to declare law, so few Supreme Court judgments you may go through if need be. At least that will also help in the first part, because then many times they will ask and you are required to refer those judgments in your answers also. So you may go through it. And appear, what I would suggest is at least go try appear. If you are not getting cleared it, you will get some experience see how to write it next time.
Since last 3 year patent agent exam has not been held, so I believe and every entire RG would be appearing for it at the same time.
Yes, I think when I had cleared in 2012, that after only once, I think once or twice it is conducted. So in last almost 9 years, it is conducted twice only. So they eventually there are always some petitions filed or something. There are certain things that were going on, but I think it would be regular if we consider the COVID scenario is returning to normalcy. I think it will be conducted regularly.
Sir, Vijay is asking, did your first job help in the litigation career? First job in the firm.
Yeah, so in the first job of the firm, I would say, because I had a very good senior. Okay, so I had interned also with ALG, so they were convinced that they will hire me. I was also very much clear that I'll either go for a litigation practice or work for some time in a firm. So once you have a senior, they'll take extra care of you. See, and the firm when I had joined, there were almost 20. I think we were a team of 20, 25 at the max. And out of that, only Ashwini sir and myself were taking care of patent and design part. So I had that one-to-one interaction also, that trademark team also. So there are my team members who were also very good and taught me many things. So it is not necessarily that even if see eventually it will help me in everything. It is not as if I am doing some non-litigation task, it will not help me in the litigation, because as far as the patent and trademark litigation part is concerned, and even I would say the kind of drafting they were doing it, even I think my drafting formats are inspired by them, that to that extent I would say, because they were very much clear about it. Even not only the drafting part, to forget it, there are many things as a lawyer that you are required to do is communication with your clients. So how to reply to you emails to the clients, that part also I have learned. Okay, so there are many things that as a naive you will not understand, but those are very crucial parts of your practice, because even today also see your 70 to 80% time of yours will go only in replying to the clients. Your practice part is hardly 20-30%, because many times there are many number of queries from the clients that you reply, and eventually out of 100 20-25 clients will turn to you for some work. Okay, so it is how to address to the clients also one of the things that you should learn, and that I have learned from them. And there are certain things like for Ahmedabad hearing, there is a trademark registry in Ahmedabad. So many times they request me to appear on their behalf also. So those are the things that you get an advantage of. Okay, so it can always help. It is not as if it is not helping.
Sir, Shreyas is asking,
Yeah.
do you advise to go straight into the litigation, independent litigation after LLB?
One can always go. See, if you are like determined enough, you can always go. But what, as I said, whether in litigation also, in which side you are planning to go, because at least litigation side, I will not say you should restrict yourself, but these are the two major areas, civil and criminal. Okay, so you should have at least that clarity in which side, because both are having some different aspect of the matters, and the even day-to-day lives of the trial lawyers and civil side lawyers are totally different. Even there are many things which are peculiar and they are totally different. But as far as myself is speaking, we were till now we were doing the high court litigation exclusively, and apart from few tribunals or consumer commissions, recently we have also started taking civil suits and criminal trials also. But because gradually my team is also growing, I have that advantage of getting help of my juniors or my partners and all that. But starting independently from the day one, it will require some guidance of your senior, because I still believe there is a kind of a guru shishya parampara, and which you can't evade at all, unless you have your father or very your brother, sister, or somebody from your family doing independently, and somebody there to guide you. Okay, because as I said, even that mentioning part and learning the code process also will take some 5 to 6 months for you. Okay, so and then starting an independent practice is one thing. I can always start from the day one, but the point is from where to get the briefs. If I'm not having the briefs, how will I practice? That is also there. So you should have that minimal. So what ideally I would say is start with somebody. Okay, side by side, start looking for your clients also simultaneously if your particular senior is allowing it, and always make sure if you are determined about going into the litigation, work with, you can work for some time in some firms. Okay, and get that experience also, and then if you are determined that you want to do the litigation practice, always negotiate with your senior. See, as far as myself is concerned, wherever I have worked, I have never told any one of my seniors that I want X salary or Y salary. That would never be the point when I will be meeting them for the first time and I will discussing it. My point will be that I want to do this litigation practice. Number one. Number two is I should be allowed to do take care of my independent clients also. So that is how it is. Don't go for money at the for at least first few years. As far as litigation part is concerned, for in-house counsel and all that, it is different, because they will start with salary and go further down.
So
Okay, so
coupled with this, the question is, if one wants to start litigation practice, because for example, in RG we have a very limited litigation opportunities coming to our way, right? So,
yeah.
for example, somebody is from Mumbai and he wants to start practice before Bombay High Court. So, how
Yeah.
to look for a senior? How to which firm to select? Which chamber to select? How to go about that?
Okay. So what I would say is, as far as your batches are concerned, you all are very fortunate enough that you have some or other senior working in at least most 5 or 7 high courts. I think we have enough number of seniors. You will find some seniors practicing there from at least from RG. Okay, so as far as Bombay High Court are concerned, two immediate juniors from our batch are also practicing. So you can always consult them. You can work. You can work with them. You can take some internship. You can always take their inputs also. I want to do this kind of practice. Whom should I work with, or with whom should I intern? They'll always guide you. And I believe, I think most of our alumni are always supportive. So they'll always support you. And they'll also, if need be, they'll try to speak to someone and get you through it. So you can always speak to someone practicing in Bombay High Court, or maybe Chennai or Delhi, or whichever High Court that you are intending to go. There are certain seniors, and if there are none, then also you may. There is one more alumni WhatsApp group that we have created. So there are most of the alumni are there, and you can always post it there. So at least if I am not having some connections in some High Court, but it might happen that some of my friend may have it. So you will always get something. So utilize that network, get opinions from the people and all that. So you'll get it, and eventually it's a part of process that you learn, because it is from the day when you will learn eventually, because irrespective of the form that you are starting, but you will always have. And choosing a good senior is always a something that will stick to your name for whole of your life if you are into the litigation, because you will always known as a junior of someone unless you establish yourself to a certain level. Even if you establish, you will always know that this person was working with that person. Okay, so you will have, if from few years down the line, you will always have that flavor of yours, because you will be judged on the basis of your serious practice also. So it is always advisable that you choose a good senior.
Right.
That is why I said you don't always go for a money and all that. So if you are adamant, say if your finances or economical conditions of your family is permitting you, even for me also I had struggled. It was not as if it was very much smooth for me. It was, and I was not. Our family was also not that much. I could sacrifice on everything, but that is a kind of a courage that you always take. It's a kind of a risk that you always take. So kind of risk है तो इसके kind of thing. So eventually, if you take a risk, you will learn something. So that 5 to 7 year line will become much more shorter. So for me, speaking, that time has been reduced to almost 2 to 3 years. First is 5 months, then second job 8 months, and then second from that though I had started my independent practice only. So almost in 13 to 20, 13, 14 months I had started my independent, but I was working with some senior, because I'll not have my briefs that much. So I'll work with him. I'll take care of his brief. I'll eventually learn many things from him. Also take care of his briefs also. And after going back home, I'll start work on my briefs or my IP filings or whatever. So that is how you do. Once you are comfortable that your side practice is having enough amount to sustain your monthly expenses, then you may go independent. It will be much smoother also, and the time will also be reduced. So for me, it was almost around 3 years, if I'll include that part also.
Right, sir. Sir, Aditya Prakash is asking, please share your experience of a patent examination interview.
I beg your pardon?
Your experience of a patent examination interview.
See, as far as the interview part is concerned, fortunate for us, at least RG people have created a good inspirations. And as far as most of the IBA firms are concerned, there is none wherein you can't find our alumni. Okay, so most of the good IB firms. So they have that prima facie impressions of our, at least our school, as far as the patent office is concerned. And then obviously they'll ask some random questions from the acts and rules. Okay, but see, for them also, if let us say if there are 2,000 people are appearing, for them there must be some window that for this year we will be only clearing 400 or 500. So eventually it is not as if you have not done good in your interview. Okay, but they are also faced with some capping. Out of this 3,000 people appeared, we have to clear only 500. So don't take it otherwise. If you are not able to clear the interview, next time you will definitely clear it. Okay, so it is not always as if you did not do good, but you did good, but they had some limitations, so they have to select some. There may be some individual factors depending, because say interviews are conducted. For my interview, there will be a different officer. For your interview, there will be a different officer. So you can't judge which one did better, which one did not, because it always becomes a relative. So always learn. Okay, take it away positively that okay, next time I'll take care of this aspect, that aspect also. But it necessarily not maybe 100% of your fault, that I would say.
Right. I think Samrat is trying to ask.
Yes.
Go ahead, Samrat.
Thank you very much, Parth. And
hello, Samrat.
Yeah.
are you able to hear me? Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Namaskar. Actually, I'm so honored today to hear you. I mean, as a learned counsel, also like to hear a learned counsel in front. Namaskar, sir, on this pavan occasion of Mahatma Gandhi's Jayanti. I mean, birth anniversary, where we also talk about, sir, when you just talked about also the various things which are there in the domain of the law, and you very rightly, sir, explained the litigation and other varied areas where the lawyers could work on. But I'm asking a bit of philosophical question also, pardon me on that one. that when we talk about Vasudeva Kutumbakam, Mahatma Gandhi's this concept of whole world is a family. So when you told, we are so inspired by your talk today. When you told that, for example, you learned a lot in your journey of this thing, if you can actually tell which all places did you work, and how in this cutthroat competition of lawyers you got experiences from various you know various lawyers or firms which you have been associated with, and how do you see that connect the dots between the different areas that you work in? And my second question to you is that the first question is pertinently about you, that how which all organizations you work and what was learning. The second thing is that in case a person actually feels like going into the law area and practicing, say, a specialized area, do you feel that that is a hindrance? Because at the end of the day, if a master of all, I mean, does it actually become a hindrance also when there are so many competitors and competing councils who are going to the courts? Sir? Yes, sir. You can dwell into that one. I hope the second question is that, say, if I'm a lawyer of say property law, because that's the course that I'm studying now, and what you told Bare Acts to read it is fantastic. I mean, does it also bring a bar to me if I know hundreds of the other acts? Do people who come to me what to do to, so that a person who is master of all comes to him?
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So yeah. So as far as the first part is concerned, I have elaborated whichever firms I have worked and how I have done it. But there are certain things that your personal professional goals might be different from those of the firms. Okay. So there are many types of practices. Like as far as particularly IP is concerned, there is a kind of a domestic practice. So there are domestic clients, and there is a practice wherein the foreign filings are done in India. So basically, we are a kind of a postman, wherein the foreign firms will be referring the work, we will be filing it, and that's it. The only thing that will be substantial part that we might be doing in those filings is only the hearing part, because from there you will also get the points for FER response and everything. Okay. So eventually, what I would suggest is what I have learned, I have shared. So I think the as far as the first part is covered, most of the things I have covered in that earlier part. As far as the second part is the specialized knowledge part is concerned, I would say, see, once I was faced with I had filed a trademark. The trademark was filed by some other party, but client had approached later point of in time wherein his mother had expired, and the earlier trademarks were filed in his mother name. Okay. Now we were faced with the issue that transferring of that mark. Okay. So transmission of property will come into play. Okay. So if I am streaking strictly, it's a kind of a compliance in IP law, but it will have bearings from the Hindu Succession Act. Okay. So if you are not if you have that limited perspective of law, you will not get to know what are the compliances, how to do it, and what also you should include in those agreements. Who are the heads? Who are the first line heads? Whether whom to include, who should sign, who should not sign. Okay, so those are the things that might come into the play. And as far as specialized, see, I have what we have seen is as far as for me speaking, there are many people who are approaching me for the IP work. Okay, likewise, there are certain local laws. Okay, we being a IP school, there are many laws of an individual state laws that we say. Okay, those who are not taught in the law school. Okay, so there are many laws which are peculiar to a state, and you have never read it even in your law school. But there are if we say for an example, revenue laws. So those are very peculiar and individual to a particular state. Even for a state, there will be 3 to 4 laws. Like speaking for Gujarat, there is a different law. For Kutch, there is a different aspect in the Saurashtra also. So there are many more peculiarities also. So it's a kind of always reciprocating your practice. So if we many times, if I am not confident about taking up a revenue matter, I will always approach a friend of mine who is very good at revenue law. But what ultimately you can do is represent yourself. What we do is we represent to the client as a team. That we have a team of lawyer. We do IP also, we do revenue also, we do civil also, criminal also. So it is always good of having see, most of them are also doing the general practices also, okay, but eventually through their clients or through their fathers or through their kids and kids, okay, so they have their practice is specialized in certain aspects, ours is specialized in certain aspects. It is not as if that we can't do it, we can also do it, but just to take care better of the client and give good results to the client. See, even if we have to part some fee with him, we should not mind it, because ultimately if you do good for the client, client will do good for you and he'll get you two more clients. Okay, so ultimately, as far as the financial part is concerned, that will be taken care of. And what you get to know is, as a group practice, your client is also covered. Okay, that client will not go. Your competition part is also covered, because that client will not be going out, okay, because that is your friend. And you will also, being a co-counsel in that brief, you will also learn many things of the revenue part, because he will be guiding you, you will be briefing with him, you will be meeting with him, and he being your friend, you can ask him very frankly, like you can ask me. So that is how you can do it. And what I feel personally is, competition is always good for any business, because see, what I see is, if you are good at something, people will come finding you, okay, because unless there are bad practitioners, there is no worth of good practitioners, okay. So competition is always good for it, and I will always suggest that there should be more people in practice, be it IP or irrespective of whichever field it is, because unless and until those are not there, your value will not be there. So if everyone is good, then there is no value of anyone. I hope I have covered it. So
Thank you very much. Thanks.
yeah,
Thanks very much.
thank you. So that is what you can always have a good network of people who are practicing with you, be a friends with them, be open about it, and you can discuss with them, and eventually you can have a see. As far as laws, law is something that you can't cover independently or alone yourself. That is nothing like in the law that one person can do everything, because even very good senior advocates, they'll have their teams, okay, and they'll be briefing them, okay, but becoming senior, they'll be limited to certain part of work, because they'll not take care of drafting, they'll only review it, they'll only do the arguments. But it is not as if they'll not know it. But once your practice grows, you will have that opportunity of hiring juniors, taking help of them, so you can cut on that part, that you feel okay, that part I am drafting part I am now satisfied, I can do the reviewing part and all that. So by that time your time is also saved, you can take care of many number of clients also. And if you have like good friends, start some joint practice or set up some formal practice. You can also start your own firm. Why to work in a firm when you can start your own? Eventually, that is. But if everything will come eventually, it is not as if from the day when everyone will get everything. And there are many things which are, we say in the practice undercurrents, which are always there and which are beyond the law also. So those things also help.
Thank you, sir. Vijay is, I think, asking a question. Vijay?
Sir, I'm Vijay from second year.
Your voice is a bit low, Vijay. If you can be a bit,
Yes, sir. Good
because
morning.
I am having some disturbance.
Is it okay now?
Yes, yes, you may go ahead.
Good morning, sir. I'm Vijay from second year. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for the insightful lesson. Sir, I have two questions, sir. The first
Yeah.
question is it like essential to have some district court experience before practicing in High Court or Supreme Court? And second question, sir, from your experience, are there any tips or learnings, not being impatient, but any tips or learnings to save some time in our career progression in litigation?
Okay.
Thank you,
See,
sir.
yeah. So as far as the experience for practicing a High Court and Supreme Court is concerned, I think Bar Council is deliberating on some rules wherein for practicing before a High Court, you have to have some 3 years of practice before a District Court and some years of practice before High Court before you practice in Supreme Court. Irrespective, whenever those rules will come into play, we are not sure of. But as far as Supreme Court is concerned, there is something called Supreme Court Advocate on Record exam. Okay, so there are certain criteria for there, wherein you have to be practicing within Delhi and with some advocate on record, which is already on roll of SCAWRA. Okay, so as far as Supreme Court practice is concerned, there are certain limitations, but it is not as if you cannot file wakalatnama and all that. But you being an advocate, you can always appear. It is like patent agent. So you can draft it, file it, all the aspects of law you can take care of it. But if this matter goes before the litigation, any lawyer can appear. Even for patent matters, also any lawyer advocate can appear, and this is something Advocate Act has given those privileges. Okay, so it is not as if you can. So what for 2-3 years? By that time you will gain some experience. Also, you will learn the court proceedings also, and from the very first day you will not have Supreme Court matter. So for whichever senior you are working, you will gain the knowledge. You will have that experience criteria also fulfilled, and then you can eventually appear for the Supreme Court Advocate on Record exam. So one of our batchmate, Prabhat, is also practicing there. So that is how you do it. I think we had one of our batchmate, I think Niharika, she was there for some time. She had interned with some seniors and then practiced for some time also, I think. Okay, and as far as the second part, I forgot the second part. Can you repeat it?
Yes, sir. From your experience, any tips or
Yes.
learnings
Yes.
to
See, tips and learning to expedite that is what I would suggest if you are determined about going into the litigation, and if your socials and financials permit, you should always go ahead. Okay, but don't compare yourself that my ex batchmate has got that X salary or Y salary, and therefore I should not go. And if you are determined, go. Don't look at your salary or something. Always look for your experiences that you gain. Okay, so work by heart whatever the time that you have poured yourself into the litigation work, but and you can side by side you can establish your own practice also gradually, because eventually many times what happens is by the time you will be working with someone, that person will also be growing. Okay, so what happens is that person might not take certain briefs, like if that person is a trial court advocate, he may refer you some bail matters. Like for my senior, if I am talking about, he eventually got into some panels. Okay, so he can't represent individual claimants. So he may refer my name to somebody from the claimant side is approaching. He may refer my name and people will approach me. I will also get some work. So I'll also, that will help me in establishing my independent practice. Okay, so it will take some time, but you will be able to do it. But the time and factor is something individual, I would say, because it will depend upon the knowledge that you have with which senior you had worked on, what areas and what aspects you have learned. And if you are planning to start independently, whether you are planning on your own or with some group of people, that will also help. So there are many things that will affect, but certainly what I have in my experience seen is most of the law school which are within the states, though either the students are not serious because they may not be attending the classes regularly or not having very much interest in law, but maybe doing for the sake of the degrees. But as far as our college is concerned, I think that attendance part and everyone has come here with some logic in mind, because we everyone had some degrees. So if they wanted some salary or some position, they, I think they would not have come to the RG. Okay, they had come to the RG with some things in mind. So I think everything will fall in place. It is a matter of taking a chance and going about it. So don't worry about where you will go, what you will do, but always have that brief things in your mind. Like once you like for my second firm, I would say when I was into 5 or 7 months, I was aware that okay, this mentioning part, drafting part, I have learned 60-70%, and mentioning and all is always covered. That you can always learn it within few months. Drafting part also you will get your own feeling, gut feeling, that okay, I can draft any petition, at least 60-70% good I'll do. Okay, then you can gradually go to the next step, and that may vary for a individual to individual. Okay, and you have good people around, they will always guide you. See, most of my good friends over here are having more than 5 to 10 years of practice than me. So I generally have that advantage of getting guided by someone. So always maintain good terms with people. They'll always guide you. See, as an advocate to advocate, they'll always guide you, give you free advice, everything they'll do. including seniors, designated seniors also. You can freely approach to them. They'll also advise you. And always over the YouTube, I think there are many lectures by many senior advocates of High Court, so you can always go through it. So there are very good interviews I have found. So sometimes I have also seen, but you can also sing, because practice is something only practitioner can tell you, and that is something you will experience only in practice. Whatever I will say here also may guide you, help you, but whatever you will learn will be in your practice only.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bhuvan Ninganya, you want to ask anything?
Yes, I have three questions in fact. Thank you, Nishit sir. Wonderful session. I have three questions for you. Number one, um, we often see that there are lawyers who practice in the high courts and then they eventually get elevated to the position of judgeship. But
Yes.
in that scenario, I see there are lawyers who are working for 30, 35 years and not getting elevated, and there are the ones who work for 15 years and get elevated. So the first question is that what is the difference? I mean, what are the realistic chances of if someone takes up a high court practice or a Supreme Court practice? What are the realistic chances that that person would get elevated? That's the first thing. I know that depends on so many factors, but I want you to delineate those factors. Okay, so that's the first question. Second question is a little more on the personal note. How is the work life of a high court advocate or high court practitioner? For example, what is your work life balance like? Most importantly,
Okay.
and a small point that I also want to ask along with the second question is, how do you manage your time? I mean, are there some tips and tricks that you personally would want to share with us for time
Okay.
management? And the third question that I have,
Hmm.
the third question that I have in my mind is that uh, if I take you back to the first year of your law school, because I'm from the first year, what would you
Okay.
have done differently? What would you have done differently if you
Okay.
reflect on your 3 years in law school? Yeah, these are three questions.
Okay. So just a second. Hello. Yeah, sorry for the moment. So as far as the judge part is concerned, see, as far as speaking for a high court, there are almost 2,000 advocates who are registered to practice before Gujarat High Court, and out of if you see the judge strength, it is hardly 30. Okay, and 30 or 33 maybe. Okay, the sanction strength is almost 42 or 52, but eventually the actual appointed strength will always be a lesser than the actual sanction strength. Okay, and out of that also 50% will be from the judiciary. So hardly, you will say hardly out of that 35, 17 or 18 will be from the high court, or at least 15. Okay, just a second. I need to is in charge. Just a second. I'll pause for a moment. Hello. So it is a matter of chance and how you practice, and there are many things, because if you go through the first, second, and third judges case, you will learn to know the collegium system, how the judges names are recommended and all that. So there is a judicial side is also involved. There is a ministry side which is also involved. So if you have some political connections, they may have some added advantage, but the chances I would hardly say it's a 1%, 2%. Okay, but there are many lawyers who are very clear from the day one that they do not want to be, or they do not want to be elevated to the judge. And now the procedure is like, previously it used to be like judges used to call the lawyers from the bar whether you want to be a judge or not. Nowadays the procedure is you have to apply. There is a prescribed forms in which you have to apply. Okay, and then the collegium will consider and clear it. Okay, so there may be like 50, 100 people applying it, but the collegium might be clearing it the name of the five judges also, and it is for High Court. The High Court Collegium and the Gujarat State Ministry will send it to the once it is approved, it will go to the, I think, Supreme Court Collegium. Once the Supreme Court Collegium approves, it will go to the Ministry, and they can always, for once they can refer it to the Collegium, but once it is second time it is approved, they have to appoint it. That is how the second and third judges the law is, but in practice there are many things that those are involved. Okay. So, but if there is a BJP ruling party and Congress judge getting elevated, there are lesser chances. So that is how in practice it follows. Okay. Because ministry will always have some objections. It should not be in that way, but that is how the things work in real life. Okay. As far as the second part is concerned, work-life balance, I would say, as far as High Court practice is concerned, we only have Monday to Friday working. Saturday, Sunday is always off. So Saturday is always relaxing. Even as far as the High Court part is concerned, we always have that 11 to 5 working window. Okay, so it depends on your practice how many matters will be listed each day. Number one. Number two is supposing if you have some personal difficulty, the other advocates on your behalf can always mention. And generally, even the judges are accommodative about it. So there is some difficulty. If you have it today, you can always mention the matter. You request the other side also to take their consent and mention that let this be listed next week or after 2 days. It is always in that way. It is always accommodative because every advocate and judges will also have their own difficulties. So I think they are accommodative for that part. Work-life balance is depends on individual, but what I would suggest if you are not a good human being, you will not be a good lawyer. So always, or if you are not a good husband, good father, you will not be a good advocate. Okay, so always balance that part, and how to balance it is dependent on individual because the only part that requires your presence in the court is 11 to 5. After 5, you have that freedom of either going to home, working from your office, or working from your home. So you will have that flexibility. As far as litigation part is concerned, I believe it has the highest flexibility as far as any working professional will get because we have that Diwali vacation of 2 weeks, winter vacation of 10 days, summer vacation of 1 month, and there will be public holidays wherein the high courts will be off. So you will like it's like school where we get all the vacations also and we practice also. But managing individual like personal life and professional life, it is something why everyone should respect and it is dependent on individual. Okay, and third part is third. Can you repeat the third part? Okay.
Sure, sir.
Yes, yes. If I had been a first year, what I would have reconsidered.
That
So,
differently,
yeah.
differently.
So for that, what I believe is most of us also in the first year, the subjects are like partly CRPC, Constitution, partly then this family law and all that also. What I believe is we should have given more weightage to that because in practice there are many laws which will always come in your way and these are the top few of it because CRPC always you will have some client with some criminal or those kind of practice or some requirements either bill side, causing side or trial side. Even succession, I said it can intersect with the IP also. Okay, so you can't ignore succession will come anywhere the property can come. Okay, so civil side also this succession suits, partition suits. Okay, in revenue side practice also there are transfer of property provisions or Hindu Succession Act provisions which will come into the play. So we would have given some more weightage and taken those seriously, I believe. And as far as always enjoy the student life always because that is something you will never get. But be attentive and taking those subjects seriously, I would say.
Right.
Thank you.
Sushma, you want to ask?
Yes, sir.
Just,
With,
just a minute. I think we'll take one or two more questions. The only difficulty, I think my iPad battery is almost 3%, and I have not got the charger. So we may, if there are any questions, people can always email me or call me. You
Yeah.
can share my number. I will
Sushma.
always open to it. We'll cover this last question. Then.
Yeah. Thank you.
yeah, good
Sushma,
afternoon.
go ahead.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, thank you for your mesmerizing session, sir. Actually, you said in your talk that choosing our mentor or guru while starting the litigation as a career is really crucial part. So, what are the factors we have to take into consideration to choose the our guru? And then, is it necessary to choose as our alumni of the school really, or we can choose a different? Means, what are the factor to choose?
The choosing part, I would say first you have to be clear as far as your individual self is concerned. You have to be clear about what kind of practice or what kind of senior you want. As in, like civil side, criminal side with, and you also go through the profile of your senior. Like you will get to know where he had worked with what all forms, because all the lawyers will have some general prima facie information about all other lawyers. Okay, so you can consult 2-3 people and you will get to know about brief of an idea about his practice, about his personal life, about his professional life when he was a junior also. Okay, number two is, if your mentor or guru is having that common domain, okay, then those of your, then you can always consult him. It is a secondary that if that guru is also your alumni, you will get that added advantage of being guided personally. Okay, because your alumni will always have, or any alumni will have always some attachment for their schools and their juniors. Okay, so you'll get that advantage. But so it's a kind of a coincidence if your guru criteria are met by your alumni senior. Okay, but you should be clear about what you want to do, and accordingly you should align your practice, because by the time you are choosing a senior, his practice must have been specialized in a particular part of the subject. Okay, your might not be, but his might be. So that is also a part. I think this will help. And you can always consult the other few or 5 or 6 people around, or if some alumni are practicing there, you can always consult them. It is not necessary that you always have your alumni as your senior, but I think this will help you.
Yes, thank you, sir. Yes.
Yeah, I think we can take one more. I think battery is yet.
Yeah, hello, this is
If I'm
Piyas.
leaving abruptly, then think that my iPad has died. I think we can cover them till then.
Yeah, hello, this is Piyas. Actually, I'm a first year student.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, my question is like, if someone has a like substantial experience in corporate sector and they want to move back to that sector,
Yeah.
because we are competing in some of the top law institutes in the country. Okay, so like, how should we approach so that we can like leverage our corporate experience and also get the best of our educational what we get from IIT Kharagpur?
So one more thing. So are you referring about in-house counsel or firm practice?
Uh, yeah, in-house counsel is main in my mind, but if someone wants to like join a law firm that specializes in like a corporate work.
So see, we have, I think many of our alumni are practicing on the corporate side exclusively. I think Nakul sir is there. Even my batchmate Rohit is there. So they were very much clear about it. One of our batchmate was very much clear about criminal side, Abhishek Jain. So he was very much clear that I'll do the criminal side practice from the day one. He did not even sit for the TNPs and all that. So if you are clear about it, you will always find a way. And there are many people who are working in altogether different areas. Like I think Hani Pamnani, one of our super seniors, is working with some government and some mission or something. So it is not always as if, but the only thing is, once your degree is also always specialized to something, you always have to establish yourself as far as the interview. You have to have that first impression that you are aware of the corporate law knowledge. Okay, then you are willing to take up some jobs which may not pay you good but give you that corporate experience, and then eventually climb the ladder. Okay, so those who have done it, they have done it. Okay, and if you want to do it, you can also do it. It is a kind of a determination. It's a kind of, see, anything is a taste of your patience, and determination will be taken, will be tested every day. Okay, so but if you are able to survive, you will survive and you will establish yourself. And there are many good lawyers, and they are very good at it. Even Nakul sir, as far as I believe, from the when I was in first year, he was in third year, but he was very much clear that I'll do only corporate law side practice, and he is doing it since past 10 years. And he is working with very good firms also. And I think there is one more senior from, I think, Calcutta. I forgot his name. He has started his independent practice on the corporate side, and he is heading a firm, his own firm. So it is not always impossible that we can do it. We can always do it. It's a matter of perseverance and determination.
Thank
And always,
you for
yeah. So many times, what we have got a notion that our professors are only giving more time to the IP laws, not to the others laws. See, irrespective of the any law school, even you take, be it all top NLUs, so it is not the professors which will define the students. It is always yourself who is going to define yourself. Okay? Because many times even many NLUs may not have good teachers for a particular subject. Okay, but we should take it like from my BPharm days, I would say, because we were the very first batch of our college. I am talking of the BPharm time. So when we were in the chemistry side, we did not had any teacher, because there was one who eventually took up some other job, and we were faced with some vacuum time wherein we did not had any teacher. We have to learn on our own. So we were a few group. We had formed a group of some 4 or 5 people. We used to learn and read ourselves and then teach it to the other student. And I think in that area I have done my masters, and without reading a single line I have get a distinction. So that is the power of, if you take it positively. If some professor is not good, and I believe nobody is good or bad, it is something relative. Okay, we might feel he is not good, some other person will feel he is good, even that person teaching will always feel he is good. Okay, and for us also, like for me also, I will think I am good. For some person, they will think I am good, but there will be some others who will think I am not good. So you can't help it. And it is not always that all the professors will be so great, they will make good mentors. Because what I have seen in the practice, all the designated seniors, and if you will see their sons and daughters practicing, they are not as good as them. Had it been, they always good seniors will have good son or daughters, they will be designated seniors, but it is not like that. It is always something about individuality that will stay for with you and individually for you. So we have to be true to ourselves. That is
Absolutely, sir. I think what you said was so true, and I think that everyone in this meeting thinks you're very good.
yeah, and see, point is complaining will not help. See, there may be situations, there are certain things we can't change it. Okay, but complaining will not help. If you are able to give some solution and develop something, it will help. Like for us, there was our batchmate Sneh Tiwari. He used to take class for whole of the boys hostel. Just day before the exam, everyone of us will gather in his room. He'll teach everything for that subject on that night in 2 to 3 hours. And most of the students from our boys hostel did not used to read anything apart from that. And then we'll go to the canteen, then girls hostel will also come, and then he'll also guide them. So it is something that if you are putting in something, if you want to be good at something, try teaching someone. Because unless and until if you are not teaching someone, then you are not better. So there are 2 criteria. If you want to be good at something, either teach or share your knowledge, or in form of teaching or whatever way, teaching your batchmates also. Number
I think sir's battery died.
Yeah. So let us end the session then.
Thank you, everybody who came.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you everyone.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Thank you, Parth.